guys, it's Nancy, and sorry about that. And I'm going to give you a flip through of Just Mary. This was a lot of fun to create, so I hope you enjoy watching this video. So I never did find out the date of this book, but to me the colors and the graphics of the lettering sort of said 1930s, 1940s to me. I don't think it is that old, but I really like it. So I've got a library envelope here, and I made an envelope out of an illustration from a 1930s magazine, and I found this photo of a nurse, and it says, "With fond regards, Mary." So that's how I knew Mary was a nurse. So I made this little pull-out tag out of an advertisement from a 1930s magazine, and I've backed it on file card so that it's nice and stiff. I took some pages out of the book and kept them. This is a little index card that says breads and rolls, and I made a little cluster here, a little collage. And inside is a little sheet of paper that's a progressive Euchre score sheet. I attached a little button, so it fits right in there. I've sewn that index card to this page. This is an advertisement from a 1930s magazine. I think I used 3 magazines. One was British and 2 were American. And this tag has a little cup and saucer on it and a little plate. And this reminded me of jadeite, which is very of the era. Had a little hunk of gesso there. So this tag is made out of vintage book page and gessoed for writing. And this is a 2 pocket tuck spot, so you can tuck something else in there. This is vintage hand crocheted lace that I've sewn on here. There is a little tuck spot here, and this is a little coffee dyed envelope that I've made a collage on top of using old magazine advertisements. This is an altered paper clip. So this little bar of Palmolive, it came from magazine. I've backed it on card and used some vintage seam binding and made this little altered paper clip. So we've got some cookbook pages. We've got lace stitched onto coffee dyed paper. This was just a piece of paper that fell out of a book, so I did some stenciling and ink on it. Ad from a magazine. This is a button card that I backed with craft paper and glued on a little image of a rose. This is an airmail envelope. It has a tag in it that I made out of file folder and some leftover scrapbooking paper. These fragile stickers, they came from a package of vintage Denison stickers, so I used them to make a pull tab. I flip out the envelope, and here's some just pieces from some postage, an envelope that I just tore and glued on there. This is washi tape. It's red with white doilies. Here's another altered paper clip. This time it's a can of peaches. I don't want to pin 2 pages together. This is an old advertisement for Campbell's tomato juice, and here's a picture from a cookbook about canning tomatoes. And this is a tuck spot, so you can stick a tag. This is all rough on the bottom, that's why I won't go in. Let's pick one that's not rough, Nancy. It's not getting any better. All of these need to be trimmed. Here. There. That goes in there. So cookbook, ledger page. This is an illustration from a book about 1940s. The look, clothing. This is some book page from the original book. Scrapbooking paper. This is a page from a vintage book about birds, a field guide about birds. Ledger, it's been stamped, edge stamped. Cookbook. This is music paper. This is a piece of stationery. This is an old magazine page. This is an old envelope that would have held the hinges for stamps, for stamp collectors. So I just tucked that in there, and you can put some stuff in there if you like. I took this apart and stitched it right into the book. So there's the back of that stationery, the back of the music paper, back of the ledger, and I've made these little journaling cards. So it's a magazine advertisement that's been glued to this craft colored line paper. This is from the American Home, October 1938. This is a band from some tapestry wool. Again, I've stitched it to some, I believe this was coffee dyed paper, and I stamped a little thimble on there. So I've tucked that into that spot. Here's the back of that bird paper, the scrapbook paper. Next signature, we have this image of strawberries, and I've got a fabric ruffle that's stitched and some hand crochet doily. This is a little teacup. It's die cut and stitched with vintage fabric, and I just made this little journaling card out of vintage Sewing Notions packaging. And here's a little cream of wheat guy that I backed onto file folder. So I've just got those tucked in there, and again it's edge stamped. Another page from the book. This was an order form from one of the magazines, American Home, and on the back is an altered guest check, and here's a little bar of Cam-A soap, came from the magazine. This was a photo I found among some of the things I've picked up recently, and I've just tucked that into a doily. And on here is a little charm. It's a little girl, and this charm came from a charm bracelet that I bought at an auction, so it's quite possible this is silver. That's coffee dyed paper. I've stitched on some two-sided scrapbook paper. Cookbook. This is a piece of stationery that folds out. Lots of room for journaling there. And here's the back of that order form. So this is an index card that I've attached here and made a journaling card to tuck in. So I have an M for Mary on the index. This has been backed with craft paper. I've got some netting in there, and I put a sticker, a honey sticker on there. Can't remember where that came from. It was Happy Mail, but I can't remember who gave it to me. This is a fabric ruffle with some doily, hand crochet doily adhered there. Some paper. This is an old envelope. It's really old and aged. I put this little collage there, and this is a page from a French dictionary. It's been adhered to coffee dyed paper and stitched, and it tucks right in there. It's a little collage I made. This is are those plums? I think those are plums. This is a little collage I made with a sewing theme, and this is a package of vintage and there's seeds in there, but it's vintage Sweet William seeds. I thought the colors were really nice. Here is a field guide for wildflowers, and scrapbook paper, and this is a little edge collage that I made. Thought it looked nice with the teacup and the card. Magazine paper. This is another edge piece that I made, and inside is a Sewing Notion card that it's vintage, and I stitched onto craft paper and tucked it in there. And this is handwritten pattern to knit socks that I found among some stuff. And there's still lots of writing room in here, and I think it's pencil, so you could erase it. This is the back of the magazine. Here's the last altered paper clip, and that's a can of Campbell's soup. So that goes right there. And here's a book page with flowers. This is a little flip. It's an advertisement from a 1938 magazine, and it just flips out like that. It's adhered to craft colored paper and stitched. Coffee dyed paper. Magazine page. And this is a packaging from a package of seam binding. I've done a little collage here. And inside is a greeting card that I remade. It had, I can't remember what it had in here. Oh, it had words in here. Get well soon or something. So I took that out and put in this picture of these two little boys. A photograph that I got I think I bought an old photo album and it was in there. Anyway, I made a little booklet by adding some coffee dyed paper and stitching down the center. And I firmed up and supported that card by gluing it to coffee dyed paper. So it just tucks right in there. This is the back of that wildflower field guide, and I've sewn a little doily on it, and I've stitched on one of my Elsie cow thingies. So you're supposed to record what flowers you saw. And this is a little coin envelope. There's nothing in it right now, but for sure you can put some treasures in there. And it has a collage on the front using old ad from a magazine. Some hand crocheted edge. This is scrapbook paper. This is a tag that I used a magazine ad, and I cut this out of a magazine, layered it up, and I've tucked it inside this little die cut of a mason jar that I've stitched around and inked up. It's made out of vintage book paper. This is a book page, memo book. This is a craft colored paper, and I stitched on a scrap of scrapbook paper to make it long enough. Old dictionary. This is a page from a magazine. There's the back of that page. I reinforced it with some paper, and this is the center. That's why you can see the stitch lines. Just because it's thick, but folding it made it fragile. All right, this is dictionary page, craft cardstock. This is a Sewing Notion envelope. It had iron-on pockets inside it, so I've done a little bit of layering there and made a tag. This is vintage sewing pattern, like the instructions from a sewing pattern, and then I adhered another layer of the tissue on top to sort of fade out the print. So you can journal on this side, and I've stitched around it and it fits. Oh gosh, I knew I was gonna... I'm at the wrong angle. Okay, I will put that in. Memo, book page, and the final scrapbook paper. So that is Just Mary. And this is elastic band that came off of an old file folder brief thing. So it's tight enough to hold it closed, but it's loose enough to get it a lot thicker. So that's Just Mary. I'll be posting this on my Etsy store. If you're seeing this video, it's on there now, and I hope you go and take a look and see what else I have listed. Take care. Have a great day.